समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया?
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
The full impact and import of the military pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia is still being assessed, and it might take some time before its entire impact is felt. But clearly, there are concerns here in India. Even if this defense pact formalizes, as the MEA argued, something that existed for many, many years, it raises all manners of questions as to whether this will lead to a much more emboldened Pakistan. There are those like Pakistani diplomat Hussein Haqqani who have even suggested that this alliance opens up the pathway for Pakistan to buy American weapons using Saudi funds. The Foreign Ministry today has issued a new response saying that they believe that the strategic partnership with Saudi Arabia will be cognizant of mutual interests and sensitivities. Still, there is a lot to discuss. The world is being upended. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. How do we understand and decode the import of these images, the pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia? Remember, India has invested a lot of political capital and diplomatic capital in deepening its relationship with Saudi Arabia. So even if what is happening here is a signaling to America, a signaling to Israel, especially after Israel bombed targets inside Qatar, there are consequences for Indian interests. The first and obvious consequence is an emboldened Pakistan, particularly because this alliance is a NATO-style alliance. It's being compared to NATO-style because just like NATO's Article 5 basically says that an armed attack on one country is an armed attack on the entire entity, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia too have agreed that an attack on one will be considered an attack on the other. So hypothetically, what does this mean if India and Pakistan go to war? Remember, Operation Sindoor is not over, it is only in pause mode. Indians are arguing that this is symbolic as far as India is concerned. Is that really the case? Let me welcome to the program two preeminent experts who will help us understand what exactly is going on here. I want to welcome to the program military veteran Colonel Rajeev Agarwal. Colonel Agarwal is a senior research consultant at the Chintan Foundation. It's good to see you, sir. And also, of course, a veteran diplomat, Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed, somebody who I think knows this part of the world better than anybody else. He has twice been India's ambassador to Saudi Arabia and also had stints in other parts of what is loosely called the Gulf world, but really is somebody who has a very, very keen sense of what is happening there. Before I get your reactions, I want to play out the latest response from the Foreign Ministry. They were asked about this pact and they said that they believe that Saudi Arabia would have to be cognizant and mindful of mutual sensitivities. Take a look.
Okay. See, India and Saudi Arabia, we have a wide-ranging strategic partnership which has deepened in the last several years considerably. We expect that this strategic partnership will keep in mind mutual interest and sensitivities.
In the meantime, Pakistan's Defense Minister Khwaja Asif, just hours before this pact was announced, spoke of how such an alliance should include other countries. They obviously want to expand this well beyond just Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. There are some who are dubbing this an attempt to have, quote unquote, an Islamic NATO. I want to bring in Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed. How concerned should India be? How do you read this defense pact? The initial statement from our foreign ministry said it was a formalization of an arrangement that already existed. But the NATO-style clause on how an attack on one country will be considered an aggression on the other as well, or on both, I think is the one that is really raising eyebrows. How do you see it, Ambassador?
I tend to see that phrase as platitudinous and even gratuitous. The reason is that even when there are such commitments, verbal commitments, rhetorical commitments, each country in the world, when facing certain challenges, makes an assessment of how it is going to respond. There is no automaticity about this. There is something, there is reflection. It takes into account the national interest. It takes into account the totality of circumstances surrounding that challenge. I cannot, for the, I cannot imagine for the foreseeable future any scenario whatsoever where this particular arrangement would bring the Saudi armed forces aligned with the Pakistanis against India. The context is very clear. This is in response to the sense of insecurity in Riyadh following the Israeli assault upon Doha, which has exposed the entire region as a target to as far as Israeli arms are concerned, and has also shown that there is no credibility to be attached to the American status as a security guarantor in the UAE as far as the region is concerned. The connection with India is very limited. India should be concerned about what is happening in West Asia, but I don't believe that this is directed at India. It is directed at Saudi Arabia to protect Saudi Arabia. And therefore, for us to be ringing all these alarm bells, we must take into account the very substantial ties we have with Saudi Arabia. When we say strategic partnership, there is a very substantial military engagement with the Saudis. We have exercises with them regularly. We have dialogue with them. We have dialogue platforms involving the Prime Minister, the National Security Advisor, and the External Affairs Minister. We are very deeply engaged with each other on all issues of common interest. Now, where Pakistan is concerned, I believe that Pakistan has played such a role before. It has provided troops to the Saudis when required in the past, and possibly there are some troops there even now as I speak to you. But none of this has anything to do with India. Yes, it is very likely that the Pakistanis who have been isolated for so long will now start saying that they are back into the mainstream. That is another matter. They were brought into the mainstream by the Americans, not the Saudis. Saudis have only reaffirmed a traditional military arrangement they've had with the Pakistanis in a very specific and limited context. And that is my own view. I don't believe they should agitate us in New Delhi at all.
So, I take your point that basically this is sprung from. Do you think this is basically sprung from America either being unwilling or unable to stop Israel from bombing targets inside Qatar, from, in a way, the declining faith in the United States of America to be the guarantor of security in this region? And therefore, do you believe that this is primarily a signal to Israel and Washington and not to New Delhi?
See, New Delhi is not in the picture.
Yeah.
As far as United States is concerned, its status as the regional security guarantor has been compromised for a fairly long time. I would say right from the time when Hillary Clinton spoke of the pivot to Asia, implying that they are going to abandon West Asia and go across to the Indo-Pacific or to West Pacific. From then, there has been consistent sense all across the Gulf that the US is not serious as a security guarantor. But this was affirmed in 2019. 2019, when the Americans failed to defend Saudi interests, when the Houthis had assaulted their oil facility and cut off oil supplies for a week. At that time, there was a pervasive view in the kingdom that there would be some American response. And it is only when the Americans failed to act that finally it was impressed upon the Saudis that we have to do things our way. And that is where you find that the Saudis started reaching out to Qatar, started the dialogue with the Iranians, They started also opened up ties with the Turks, and you find they also started looking at China, Russia, and India. So this is something that has been going on for some time. I believe that the attack on Doha is the final straw. Whatever the Americans do today, they are not likely to win back trust in the GCC again, not on this scale. Now, where does it all lead? Why is this happening the way it is? There is, of course, Biden could not do anything about Israeli violence and genocide. He could not do. He was completely a helpless spectator. Occasionally, he would try to do something. He would talk to Netanyahu and say, you should have humanitarian corridor. You must have a ceasefire, etc." But Donald Trump, a, per, is a personification of anarchy and chaos and total megalomaniac. He has made it very clear that he is going to set no limits on Israel, that he is totally committed to the Israeli side, whatever their agenda. Sometimes he doesn't even ask for it. United States is totally complicit in all the violence that Israel has perpetrated across the region. Also, he was aware of the assault upon Doha, though he has neither the gravitas nor the sense of vision as to the serious implications of what is happening. Rubio was sent to Jerusalem, and we thought he would counsel restraint. On the contrary, his remarks are even more hawkish as far as American support to Israel is concerned. So, all of these signals have been read well in the Gulf capitals. There is already a very major churn in the region. There are a lot of engagements and a lot of discussions taking place. And I believe fairly quickly, possibly within a year or so, you will see a new security order that will emerge in the region.
Okay, now you have said, and I want to bring in Colonel Agarwal, and then I have a lot more questions for you because you've said New Delhi is not in the picture. This is, New Delhi is getting, those who are getting alarmed are doing so unnecessarily. But could it lead to unintended security consequences or concerns for Delhi is something I would like to talk about. And I would like to bring in Colonel Agarwal at this point. One of the things that Hussein Haqqani said rather boastfully, even though I've known him for years, it was a little bit of a I told you so moment or I got you moment on X. He has been Pakistan's ambassador to the United States of America, and he said, this basically opens the door for Pakistan to purchase American weapons using Saudi funds. And he pointed to a time in the 1970s when he said that this has happened before. The Saudis have been facilitators, and with this alliance, something like that could happen again. And Pakistan today has China's hand on its head. It has this alliance with the Saudis, and it has Trump, for whatever reasons, business reasons, reasons of flattery, also inviting Asim Munir to luncheons and possibly meeting them again on the sidelines of the UNGA. So while Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed has explained that this was not targeted at India in any way, and he doesn't see a day where the Saudis will be fighting alongside the Pakistanis against India, are there going to be unintended consequences? For example, a more aggressive Pakistan?
Absolutely, Barkha. I mean, I agree with Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed on whatever he has said. It is not targeted against Delhi. And the first statement that came out from MEA that we knew that it was in the works puts it very straight that Saudi Arabia kept New Delhi in picture, how it was developing. The only thing is it was expedited because of what Ambassador Talmiz has explained in his comments, what happened in West Asia and the complicity of the United States and the inability of the United States to stop Israel in attacking Qatar. And the statement that further strikes in Qatar or elsewhere are in the offing if and when Israeli decides to do so. Now, coming to your question, Barkha, Saudi alliance means at least one thing, that there'll be an inflow of money when Pakistan wants for military modernization and hardware, and that money is something which is music to the ears of Pakistan, because they've been under tremendous pressure. Their loans from IMF have not been sanctioned, and India had put a lot of pressure on IMF that Pakistan must be put again in the grey list of FATF, so that more and more restrictions are there on money. So money is definitely going to come to Pakistan, and this money is going to be used for buying military hardware from United States or elsewhere. So this is one of the unintended consequences that Pakistan is going to exploit. The other unintended consequence of this, alliance with the money coming in and the kind of morale booster that Pakistan has got today, Pakistan, which was shattered after Operation Sindoor, is able to stand up and on its 2 feet, because Saudi Arabia, it is signing with full media glare, and the four of them standing like you showed on your screen, signing the defense pact. You have the Asim Munir going to Washington and having lunch with Trump. So suddenly, they have found some kind of a morale boosting developments in the last few months. This, I'm afraid, is going to also have unintended and indirect consequences, having direct impact on the terror network which is recuperating in Pakistan. So the
Yeah.
state sponsorship to terror, the terror infrastructure which was badly battered, will again get a morale boost that Pakistan is now back on the center stage, if not in South Asia, at least in West Asia. And if some of the reports say that maybe a larger alliance may be in the offing with Qatar, UAE, and others joining, I mean, this could make Pakistan's day for any time to come. So yes, there could be indirect consequences of this, although this alliance is definitely not intended to hurt India in any manner.
I think that's a very fair appraisal, and I wonder if Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed agrees. But just before that, since you spoke about Pakistan's keenness to expand this alliance, pull in other countries if it can, Pakistan's Khwaja Asif said as much. And I'm just going to play out a small clip from Khwaja Asif's comments to Geo News, interestingly made before this pact is formally signed. He's already talking about what he knows is coming. And he's saying that the doors are not closed to other countries. Take a look.
It will be a little early to gauge that or expect that. मेरा अपना ख्याल है कि gradually हमें एक तो नेटो के तर्ज के ऊपर जो है एक मिलिट्री अलायंस बनाना चाहिए जो बिल्कुल ये किसी के खिलाफ नहीं होगा, ये अपनी दफा के लिए हो. ये it will have no आप कह सकते हैं हेजेमोनिक डिजाइन्स, बट डिफेंसिव डिजाइन्स के ऊपर जो है वो होगा.
So, Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed, Khwaja Asif, Pakistan's defense minister, there is talking about a NATO-styled alliance that he says is not hegemonic in intent, but will be defensive. And in other comments, if you read a very detailed account of this interview in Dawn, he actually specifically says that, countries in the Muslim world should come together. And so I want to come to what Colonel Agarwal said. Yes, not targeted against Delhi. Yes, the Saudis are probably most likely not going to stand with the Pakistanis against India. But do we have to worry about an emboldened Pakistan that suddenly has inflow of money to rebuild its terror bases, but also to modernize its military?
See, from Pakistan, we are familiar with rhetoric that has no basis in reality. They are, in many ways, a seriously troubled state and have considerable domestic weaknesses which they find themselves unable to address. As a result, what happens is from time to time, when something goes right and looks good, they go berserk and go to the other extreme. You've had an agreement 2 days ago on something.
Yeah.
Nobody knows the details. Nobody knows the content. Nobody knows what is actually expected of Pakistan. Nobody knows what is likely to happen in the coming years, coming months and coming weeks and months. But already talking of an Islamic NATO, we've heard this language before. It's a very earlier, you remember, we used to hear about this Islamic bomb.
Yes.
I don't know where that disappeared.
Yes.
Now, there is this nonsense of the NATO. You need very substantial strategic consensus among countries that come together. The NATO that was formed in Europe is a consequence of the Second World War. the carnage of the Second World War, which itself had followed the First World War. No such thing has happened in the region. Pakistan is desperately searching for a role and uses this terminology of NATO. Nothing could be further from the truth. I want you to remember a few years ago, the Pakistanis at that time, no, the Saudis at that time, seriously threatened by Iran as they saw it, started the language of Islamic NATO. You know, in the context of the Arab Spring uprisings, when they had demonized Iran and had said it has sectarian impulses, etc. They talked and they had brought together about 20 or 30 countries, and there were some exercises that took place at the Iraq border. What happened to that? There was no army was formed. The Saudis were very keen that there should be a Pakistani general, and therefore they shanghaied this gentleman Bajwa and brought, I think it was Bajwa, who was brought in and is now sitting in Riyadh, a general with no army behind him. I've been there. This is absolute nonsense, has no basis in reality. Similarly, I have to address the remarks of former Ambassador Hussein Haqqani.
Yes.
He has made this absolutely baseless remark. Can you imagine a scenario where Saudis are going to fund Pakistan's militarization? Please recall that Saudi Arabia is as concerned about extremism and violence coming out of Pakistan as we are. The basis on which we were able to build a strategic partnership with Pakistan took place after the Mumbai attacks. At that time, the entire Gulf saw with their own eyes, and indeed you were a very significant reporter at that time in Mumbai, it was a tremendous impact. That here finally they saw with their own eyes that this is a wanton attack, a cruel attack, hundreds of people killed. This was engineered from Pakistan. It provided logistical support. It provided training. And this was jihad. The entire region was terrified because they said if Mumbai can be attacked in this way, what about us? We are next door.
But then what is the actual aim beyond symbolic of the Saudis getting into this then with Pakistan?
So the Saudis are basically conveying a message that they on their own may have been vulnerable, but now there is a major military force that has come into play. Pakistan has played such a role before. You know, when the Houthis attacked Saudi Arabia in 2010, they brought a battalion from Pakistan and placed it at the border. Yeah. And perhaps later on it became a brigade. They have not fought. They have not done anything. They're just there. But the point is, these are symbolic acts that the kingdom does as a direct consequence of something that has happened. We have no clue about where this is all going. All the nonsense, all the rhetoric, the extreme rhetoric is coming from Pakistan. Now, I don't blame them because they've had such a bad press for so long. They now desperately need some good news, but they go to the other extreme. Islamic NATO, no, it is a non-starter. I would be very, very surprised if the Saudis were to put any more money in Pakistan. Pakistan has been living off Saudi money for about 30 years. They have been providing them lines of credit for the oil, which actually has never been paid for. They have been funding their development. This was the old idea that if we don't fund development, all Pakistanis will become jihadis. But that is the Chinese started CPAC on CPAC on that basis, and we don't know if it is true or not. The fact remains that I do not envisage massive movement of Saudi funds into Pakistan for their militarization. Also, you know, the Americans are very careful about where their weapons go. And if they are not satisfied, it doesn't matter if the Saudi money is coming in, they are not going to give any weapons for the Pakistanis just yet. Pakistan their general may have had a lunch at the White House, but they are not yet good boys as far as Donald Trump is concerned.
Okay, I have a lot more questions about the Trump-Pakistan equation, but Colonel Agarwal, you have a slightly different perspective on the militarization of Pakistan. And Ambassador mentioned the Houthis. Let me read out a question from one of our regular viewers, Prasad. Barkha, will the Pakistani troops attack the Yemeni Houthis when the Houthis attack Saudi Arabia? What about Pakistan attacking Iran if Iran attacks Saudi Arabia? I think what Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed is saying is, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Kuch zyada nahi hone wala hai. You don't share that perspective. What is your biggest concern?
No, you're right, Barkha. I mean, we are talking of this deal being about Pakistan, whereas this deal is about more about Saudi Arabia and the region. What I was saying was the unintended and likely indirect consequences if this deal goes ahead and some money starts pouring in. That is how it could be misused, as it has been misused in the past. Also, there are records to it. But this deal is more about Saudi Arabia and the insecurities being felt in the West Asian region, and not about Pakistan, and definitely not about India. Coming to the question that has been posed, we may recall that in 2015, when Saudi Arabia-led coalition had launched the Operation Decisive Storm against the Houthis in Yemen, Pakistan had passed a resolution in the parliament saying that we cannot be a part of it. So, and Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed just alluded to it that even in 2019, when the Houthi strikes had started taking place along the eastern borders of Saudi Arabia, Pakistan did not take active part. They did station some troops along the eastern border. They have 1,500, 2,000 troops always stationed in Riyadh, which are quote unquote for the security of the royal family. But they have never, participated in active combat in Saudi Arabia, except for one situation, which was in 1979, the Makkah siege, where along with the French, special forces, they had participated to evict and eliminate the threat which had, come about there. But other than that, it is not foreseeable that it is going to happen. And one more thing that we have to see is why has it come about? It is only because whether it is Saudi Arabia or UAE or any other country in the region, they do not have the military capability. For long, they have outsourced their security by doing two things. One is asking the American troops to be there, positioned on bases to provide them assurances of security, and plus buying, a lot of high-tech military hardware just to please the Americans, but without having the capability to actually operate much of the equipment. So today, why Saudi Arabia is looking at Pakistan is the question that we should ask, because neither China is willing to put its hand in this muddle. Russia is preoccupied in the Ukrainian war. India is not yet ready to, provide or become what Manmohan Singh had once said, a net security provider in the Indian Ocean region. So Pakistan is the TINA factor that has come about, a big military power with big military equipment, and which can at least show a sign of deterrence or a threat to any future attacks that may come about on Saudi Arabia.
Okay, Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed, a lot of the Western media is talking about a nuclear umbrella over this region. So a nuclear nation, Pakistan, and I want you to pick up on what Colonel Agarwal said. From what I'm hearing from you, you think this is a little bit of signaling, more symbolic than real, and you don't think anything is going to dramatically change in the immediate future. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct.
So these unintended consequences are also not going to be too grave, according to you?
We need to study this further. If you don't mind, I will respond to this point.
Please.
You see, this agreement is an important agreement. It is important in terms of West Asian regional security. The old security order has broken down. It has collapsed. The important role of the United States has ceased and has lost all credibility. Israel has become a very major military hegemon. It's a new order. Israel up to now had not asserted this right. Therefore, many things have changed. What we are looking at, the region is now scurrying around for new security arrangements. A, within themselves, and B, with the help of external players. Within themselves, the principal role players are Pakistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey, trying to work together. External role players, I would say straight away, China and Russia. But they need to go a very long way. The ultimate arrangement we know, that is a comprehensive regional security arrangement. We do not know when it will happen, and we do not know in what shape it will happen. We are today actually not able to take a longer view because we are in the midst of conflict. We have a Ukraine conflict, we have the Gaza conflict, and all across the region, the West Asian conflict, and you have the assault upon Doha just a few days ago. In this scenario, it's not easy to make predictions about which way things will go. But what I will share with you, my own very serious concern, is that India has for far too long built a fortress, New Delhi, for itself. We are not involved. We are not engaged with all these very dramatic events, some of them cataclysmic events, which are taking place right next to us. As I have said, it's a mantra that how can you have how can you be comfortable in your own home when your neighbor's home is burning? We have a West Asia that is in serious jeopardy. Its security order has collapsed. Many new developments are taking place during Op Sindoor. You had Turkey talking to Pakistan in great detail. You have we do not know what is their ultimate objective. We have Saudi Arabia and Iran now becoming friends with each other. You have Saudi Arabia and Pakistan doing this deal with each other. The Americans now thoroughly discredited. You have a genuine security vacuum in the region. Where is India in this scenario? India should be a major role player. We say in the new world order, India should shape the order, not just follow it. Where are we shaping it? Are we involved with councils? I'm not advocating a military role. I believe that we should use our diplomatic prowess and the very substantial presence we have in the region in terms of our trade, energy, trade, logistical connectivity, and the presence of our community. We should be using or we should be there. We should be all over the place. Instead, we have abdicated this space to the Chinese. My answer to you would be that if there is one lesson that I should draw, that we should all draw from this, is that the region is in turmoil, that they need India's counsel. India should be a presence in the region. It will be heard with respect. I'm not rushing into anything dramatic like day after tomorrow, I want to have a comprehensive agreement. At least let us begin the dialogue. We have already started talking to the Chinese. We are talking to the Russians. We might shape the RIC. Maybe RIC would be a major role player in the region. We can't leave the region to Pakistan and Turkey alone. And because then we can't bemoan the consequences of our inaction. I want India to be a major player in the region.
Can I ask you, since you've mentioned RIC, there's a sense that the images we're seeing on our screen from the SCO summit when Putin, Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi met, these were tactical moves because of what Trump was doing vis-a-vis his tariffs against India. And now that, not that the tariffs have gone, but there seems to be some thaw in that frozen moment between India and the US, India will now have to once again rebalance this trapeze walk. How do you see what's happening in West Asia in the context of the larger, Trump factor? You spoke earlier about Trump being a personification of megalomania, Americans being discredited. What does this mean for India's America policy, India's policy vis-a-vis China, India's policy vis-a-vis Russia? Ambassador, can you hear me?
Yes, I thought it was Colonel, but anyway.
No, yes, for you and then to Colonel.
What you need when you have a serious challenge in front of you, what you don't want is knee-jerk opportunism. You want reflection. You want gravitas. You want policy making. You want to have plans for the medium to long term. All of this is absent as of now. What we should be doing just now is looking at where could we go. There must be two things. Number one, a moral compass, and number two, a strategic vision. Both are absent. If we must be very clear where we want to go. I would say very simply to you just now, firstly, re-engage with South Asia in a constructive and positive manner. It means including engaging with Pakistan, reviving SAARC, and building a relationship with the neighborhood on a completely new basis. No hegemony, no intrusion. Be there as a support base, but not tell them how they should run their life. That's South Asia. With regard to West Asia, become a major presence in the diplomatic discussions that are taking place. The platform we have already set up, India and the GCC, it can be made more substantial. Bring in other players like RIC, etc. It's very often that when some things happen outside the West, they are disparaged in the Western media as tactical in character or showmanship. I believe that these are strategic in character. I think firstly, Tianjin is a very major development. There has been a lot of serious dialogue that took place over there. Certain things should become clear to our top leadership that we should be players. The kind of quarrels that you have and the kind of US lobby that pushes you always towards Washington, regardless of Washington's behavior, that is not acceptable. Have a moral. I'm not wanting us to quarrel with anybody, but let us have our priorities right. Where do you go? Number one, we should, as I said, South Asia, West Asia, at the global level, we must be totally unswerving in our commitment to a new global order. This argument which some people give and which I disparage completely is that China wants a new global order, a multipolar global order in the world, but they wants a China-dominated order in Asia. I reject this contention completely. Asia is an integral part of the world. I cannot imagine an Asia dominated by China and China alone. We have players like India, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Australia. None of them is going to accept a China-dominated Asia. If we are speaking of a world order, I believe in a multipolar world order in Asia and the rest of the world, and that is the way we need to go forward. United States is a friend, but today they have a seriously erratic leadership crisis, unpredictable, very unsound in moral principles. I'm not sure that you can depend on them. I see this as the decline and fall of the American empire, but that's a personal view, leave it aside. The point is, we need to get our act together over the next few years, otherwise someone else will write our story for us and we will not figure in it.
I do think that this idea of the declining hegemon is a very compelling one when it comes to the United States of America. We are seeing the end of American exceptionalism in so many ways, and we don't know if it will be any different once the Trump tenure is over. But Colonel Agarwal, let me bring you in and then give Ambassador the last word. What is your biggest concern at this point? You know, there are so many balls up in the air. We have this moment of thaw with the birthday phone call from Trump to Prime Minister Modi, but we don't actually know what's going to happen with the tariffs. Trump is volatile, unstable, erratic, unpredictable, very difficult to build anything sort of predictable around him, because his cues, you can't take any cues from him because his cues keep changing. You have China, which Ambassador says is not just tactical, it is strategic. How do you see it?
So, Barkha, one thing has been made very clear in the past few years, that is with regarding to US, and it is not restricted to Trump. If you read the fine print going down to even the Biden era, it is clear that what US wants is a subservient ally, and India is not ready to be a subservient ally. India is ready to be an equal partner, but not a subservient ally. And that was seen when Modi went to Washington in 2023. We saw it again when Trump wanted Modi to come from Brazil and he politely declined. So there is a basic ideological issue as far as what US sees India and what India sees as the new world. Coming to the region, both South Asia neighborhood of ours and the West Asian region, too many things are happening, and we cannot remain as the good boys forever, because India right now wants to be the good boy in the playbook of everyone. So whether it is a West Asian conflict, we don't want to take a position because we do not want to anger the Israeli friends. We don't want to be on the side of the Israeli because we don't want to spoil the relations with the Arab friends. So, but the kind of inflection point the region has now been forced upon because of the kind of attacks that are happening on the region and inability of the West Asian region to defend themselves. This inflection point, if India loses hold of it, is not going to come back again. So what India has done beautifully over the years, it has to do it now again. That is, see every situation objectively, de-hyphenating the ties. So irrespective of whether Israel is a strategic ally of India, if Israel is not going by the rule book and is inflicting or threatening our strategic partners in West Asia, India has to stand up and say in those many words. If West Asia is as a group seeking support from India, then India has to come up. How much more India is going to wait, to be sought after? Today, people are seeking India. The European Union and Zelensky both are coming down to Delhi and saying, US is not able to get the ceasefire. You get the ceasefire because you have a close rapport with Putin. China is started talking to us. With China, I would always say, trust, verify, and re-verify. You cannot be complacent with China. But wherever we have shared interest, wherever we have something to move on, we should move on as far as China is concerned, because cutting ties and sitting back in Delhi sulking would not help the cause in any manner.
Okay, let me give the last word now to Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed. One of our viewers, Ambassador, says, what India needs to make clear to the Saudis is that if they squeeze India's oil supplies in case of a conflict, India will look for other OPEC sellers. Do you think this will happen? I mean, Saudi is a major energy supplier, or do you still think kuch nahi hone wala, keep calm and carry on?
You see, I am a strong advocate of moral compass, gravitas, and serious policy making. I dislike knee-jerk reactions. When somebody has been angry with me, I'll go and do this. This is what children do. Mature countries, self-confident countries, we don't do this. Saudi Arabia is a very, very sophisticated country. They have extraordinary gravitas. I don't need to go and threaten them and say, if you do this, I will do this. I want to remind your interlocutor that when Iraq occupied Kuwait, overnight all oil supplies to India ended. We went to Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia told us, the oil minister, I was there, I was physically present. His Majesty has instructed me to inform you that Saudi Arabia will meet all your oil requirements. Never has Saudi Arabia ever threatened anybody with regard to oil supply. So this kind of remark serve no useful purpose. We have very substantial ties with the Gulf. They are multifaceted. They have been constantly transformed. But my criticism has been that they are purely bilateral. I want to go beyond this. I want us to have a regional strategic approach based on diplomacy, become a presence in the region, if necessary with partners, build a kind of idea, vision, a shared vision of where the region should go. If we are looking at a post-American order, we should be responsible. We should take responsibility upon us. We can't say it's a post-American. Up to now, we can criticize the Americans. If the Americans then shift away, I have responsibility. I should be the one taking.
And how do you think the Americans will react to this pact?
Let us see. See, America has their propensity to intervene is through military action. Yeah. How America will act? I'm not threatening America. I'm not confronting America. I'm simply discussing with my Gulf and other West Asian interlocutors how we can promote peace and stability in the region. That's all. Nobody can stop us from doing that. Let us build ideas. Let us build a certain habit of cooperation and consultation. We've done nothing. It is unless you do something, you cannot fail. You have to first do something, and then maybe, just maybe, you might be successful.
Well, as the Chinese would say, and I find myself quoting them every day, we live in interesting times. The world is changing right before our eyes, and I think what we're hearing on this program is that India should not sit out that change. India should not react to that change. India should be part of shaping that change. And I think nobody can disagree with that. Thank you very much, gentlemen, to Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed, to Colonel Rajeev Agarwal. Learned a lot from both of you. Hope to see you again very soon. The story isn't going anywhere. It's going to take a few weeks and months, maybe even longer, for us to understand the full consequence, if any, for us from this pact. And we hope to have you back with us soon. Thank you. Take care. See you soon. Ambassador Talmiz is saying something. Let's unmute him. Ambassador Talmiz.
Get back to you for a review. I wanted to also mention to you both, my friends, Chinese also say win-win.
Yes, good one and good note to end the show on. Thank you very much and see you soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust
joining us.